My name is Andrea Menard, and I am the lead educational developer for Indigenizing Curricula and Pedagogies here at the University of Alberta. I am an intergenerational residential day school survivor. My Métis great-grandmother attended residential day school and was damaged by the experience. She died an early death. Intergenerational trauma was then passed down throughout the Métis side of my family, and I suffer from intergenerational trauma today. There were approximately 140 residential schools across the land now known as Canada from 1831 to 1998. In Alberta, we had the highest number of the country, where 25 schools operated here. At least 4,000 children died, and at least 821 of these deaths were in Alberta. Indigenous communities have been searching for unmarked graves at former residential school sites. This was an extensive pattern of genocide that was deliberately being instituted on Indigenous peoples by the government and churches. There are countless stories of abuse at residential schools, but in Alberta, mortality rates soared above the national average. Almost everyone you know who is Indigenous is an intergenerational residential school survivor or a survivor themselves. Stop and think about that for a moment. Indian residential school survivors advocated for recognition and reparations and demanded accountability for the intergenerational impacts of harm caused. Their efforts culminated in the establishment of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which ran from 2008 to 2015, and provided those directly or indirectly affected by the legacy of the residential schools with an opportunity to share their stories and experiences for Canadians to hear and for it to be recorded forever so that Canadians never forget. The Commission released its final report detailing 94 calls to action. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is a direct response to Call to Action 80, which called for a federal statutory day of commemoration. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation honors and refuses to forget the children who never returned home, the survivors of residential schools, as well as intergenerational survivors after them. Public commemoration of the tragic and painful history and of the ongoing impacts of colonization and discrimination in Canada is a vital component of understanding why reconciliation needs to be understood and processed in each of our personal and professional lives. Both the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation and Orange Shirt Day take place on September 30th. Orange Shirt Day is an Indigenous-led grassroots commemorative day intended to raise awareness of what happened at residential school and to promote the concept of every child matters. Whether you prefer reading books, listening to podcasts, or watching films, take the time to reflect on the history of residential schools in Canada and the strength of Indigenous peoples today.